Well, good evening and welcome to Sunday Alive. And I have a few things to say before we meet our two very fine visitors tonight and our topic. You all know that there has been a media continuing attack on the Catholic Church for weeks and weeks. And we've got to start answering back to this. It's put together. It's not an accident. And I'm going to be exposing some of this very clearly next week with some facts and figures. But here's a quotation from Sam Miller, a prominent Jewish businessman in Cleveland. Why would newspapers carry on a vendetta on one of the most important institutions that we have today in the United States, namely the Catholic Church? Do you know that the Catholic Church educates 2.6 million students every day at a cost to the Church of $10 billion, a savings, the other hand, to American taxpayers of $18 billion? But the press is vindictive and trying to totally denigrate in every way the Catholic Church in this country. And I'll continue from Mr. Miller next week. Here is another quotation from the Protestant world. This is Johann Christoph Arnold, who is the elder of the church, ancient Anabaptist church called the Bruderhof, or the Brotherhood. He says, instead of targeting the Pope, why should we begin to address the root causes of sexual abuse? A society and an entertainment industry that will cross any boundary for the sake of making money. And he points out very well that the media is not content with persecuting the Catholic Church. Its ultimate aim is to destroy people's faith in God. First the family, now faith itself is under attack. So we're going to discuss this topic next week, and I was looking around for some people to come on with me, and I couldn't get anybody, so I decided I'll go on by myself. And loaded for bear. So tell some of your friends that don't watch television, they might enjoy this one. Now our visitors tonight, not only very fine, but eminent people. And we're talking about Catholic education, particularly in grammar school, in elementary education, which we're going to point out is kind of overlooked. And our two visitors this evening, Bishop Frank Caggiano, Auxiliary Bishop of Brooklyn, and Vicar General of the Diocese of Brooklyn. And Bishop, we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you.
And would you believe that Bishop Caggiano was ordained a priest the year that we started our new community? So he's a lot younger than I am. And we are also this evening with Brother Edward Shields, We're very delighted to meet Brother from the De La Salle Christian Brothers, and he's principal in St. Gabriel's School in
East Elmhurst.
East Elmhurst. My cousins went there years ago, I should remember. And
they
were
were A+ students.
Oh, yeah. Brother is an educator all these years, and we pay very attention to the De La Salle Christian Brothers. They were started by, oddly enough, by a priest, St. John Baptist de La Salle. And for many people, when they talked about a brother, they meant a De La Salle brother. There's also the Irish Christian Brothers, and then religious orders have their own orders, brothers in the order. Now, we're talking about Catholic education, 2.6 million students, an immense number, and that's elementary and high school. We're not talking about the colleges.
No.
2.5 million people. There are countries in this world that don't have in their total population 2 billion.
True.
So, well, Iceland or something like that, they wouldn't have anywhere near that. So, where are we going to go with Catholic education? Bishop.
In our diocese, we are in the midst of a reinvention of Catholic elementary school education for many reasons, not least of which is our enrollments have been challenged over the last 10 years. We've lost about half of our school population over the last 10 years. So now our hope is to stabilize and begin to rebuild our Catholic elementary school, both mission and population and enrollment. And what we're attempting to do is reinvent the very structure of Catholic elementary schools by allowing laity to come in real governance, to create partnerships in the community, to get the good news out that these schools are worth saving. They are, in many ways, they're the heart of the communities, and serve Catholics and non-Catholics alike. So we're right in the midst of it now.
And how sad it is if you're driving past a church and there's a school building and there's the name on, St. Mary's Grammar School, and it's closed.
Right.
It's sad to see that. Brother, how are you seeing the problem?
Well, I agree with the bishop, but when he talks about doing something different, our brothers took over the governance of our school about 3 years ago. So that when he talks about a new way of looking at things, so the brothers have the responsibility of the governance of the school, and we have a lay board to help us. And basically, what we're saying is that we've been in education. You mentioned that for 330 years, and St. John Baptist de La Salle is the patron saint of teachers, so that we come with a gift to the church of trying to bring that charism to the church. I mean, if you look at New York, we had many elementary schools, and now we have one. We're the last elementary school. So I think it's very important that we work very hard to maintain that.
This is the brothers.
The brothers, yes. I think when we go back, the Bishop DiMarzio had a wonderful pastoral letter on Catholic education, and he said that the Catholic elementary school is the best means of evangelization and leadership formation. So if you have a Catholic elementary school is the best means of evangelization and leadership formation, then we have to work very, very hard. And one of his statements is our commitment to Catholic schools must never waver. And I think that's not only for us, but it's for everybody. We talked before about the need of getting more people involved in Catholic education. I mean, how many people graduated from the brothers' schools when we educated them for free? And I'm from that generation. I mean, I went to grammar school, elementary school. We were taught by the Dominican Sisters of Sparkle, but tuition was $1.25 a month. So people in my age group owe it to the church to give back to the church right now. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is trying to find people who will give back to the church in terms of giving to the children of today.
So it's partly a financial situation.
Very much so.
The school that you're speaking of in St. Gabriel's is now not a parish school.
No, we're now called the La Salle School at St. Gabriel's Parish.
and it's independent and has its own board.
Yes.
Is that one of the better ways to do this? Because parishes are struggling in various places to try to keep a school going. And the pastor will tell you that it's taking so many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And he's got his back to the wall, you know.
But see, it is one of the better ways. Our diocese is committed to convert all our parochial schools into independent Catholic academies. St. Gabriel's is one. We have 13 others. And in the next 4 years, our hope is to complete the transformation. So they will all be independent from their host parishes, but all the parishes of the diocese, there are 198 parishes, will be affiliated and aligned to a school. The pastors, the priests, the deacons will give pastoral service. And the laity will really help to not only run the school, but do a lot of what Brother's talking about, is to really invest in the school. That is significant.
Invest means support.
Financial, but it's also their gifts, their expertise, their talents, the resources they can offer.
See, years ago, we didn't give it a thought.
No.
The sisters ran the school.
Absolutely.
That was it.
And the brothers.
And the brothers.
Well, the brothers too. I had sisters for 12 years. And I said that the sisters, it was a wonderful experience. One of my sisters who taught in high school just passed away, Sister Mercedita, Sisters of Charity of Convent Station. And I heard from my classmates who are all like myself, pushing on 77, they would all say the best teacher they ever had in their whole life. A wonderful. Now, I was jealous because nearby was St. John's School in Orange, and they had the brothers. That was class. You know, have the brothers. But we had sisters in high school, and this is the tragedy, the collapse of religious orders of women. And I think it was a gigantic mistake right from the beginning. And there are orders that are growing. These young ladies here today with the sister are postulants of our community, and they are, this is a new community, a few years old.
Wonderful.
And Sisters of Life, about 100 sisters. Sisters, an old community, the Nashville Dominicans, huge. They just built a new division. And the sisters out in Michigan, Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Church, huge, going on. It does work, but you've got to do it. And if I've said this more than once, it is anthropologically, if you study psychological anthropology, an identifiable, uniform way of dressing, a habit, or something like that is required for a religious community.
See, I think that's one of the solutions, is trying to find young people who will answer the call that we answered to come in and teach. I mean, my order, as I said, is a 330-year tradition in the church. And if today's Good Shepherd Sunday, so if there's any young man out there who's at all interested in the brothers, give me a call. But I think that we also have to challenge the older generation who are not young enough to be brothers and sisters to say, well, you know, it's time for you to give back what you received. And you know, I have some classmates. I went to Mater Christi High School in Astoria, which was staffed by our brothers. And I have classmates who are now running a golf tournament for our school. So every year, in May 17th, they'll have a golf tournament. So that's their way of giving back. But we need more and more people. I often say if I had somebody give me $20 million, I could run a tuition-free school. So if there's anybody out there who wants to give me that, I'd be happy.
Isn't there one in New York?
There is. There is. Through the generosity of one layman who is anonymous, when we began preserving the vision, he came forward and he pledged the creation of a completely tuition-free school for poor Catholic children in our diocese. In fact, he searched out the poorest census tract, which happens to be in Bushwick. The school is up and running. It's named after Pope John Paul II, and it's a covenant school. So the school makes a covenant with the family so that in exchange for a tuition-free education, the family makes the commitment in faith to be educated, to worship, and be involved in the life of the church. There's 103 students, all poor, who would never have had an opportunity for Catholic education if it was not for the generosity of this extraordinary single individual. It's a great story.
You know, that we were talking earlier, and this strange thing about the charter school, which are public school, but they receive a lot of popular support from the rest of the community. And they're already receiving.
It's fashionable.
Yeah. But what about religious school?
That's right.
Not just Catholic one.
No.
There could be a Protestant school, a Jewish school, and what are they doing? We have a break now, so now start thinking some questions. We're going to have a break now, and then we will be back for our next segment, and then we'll have our questions. Bishop Caggiano, very interestingly, pointed out this one school, St. Barbara's in Bushwick, which is completely supported by a single generous man, and it's an endowed school. We were also talking about the charter schools, and I'm not so sure everybody in our audience in this country, England, Ireland, Europe, South America, do they know what a charter school is?
A charter school is essentially a public school that's receiving public funding, but nonetheless, it is granted a charter in the state of New York by the Board of Regents for a period of 5 years, and they hold their students to a set of academic standards and a form of discipline, which makes them very attractive. And to their credit, a lot of charter schools have done a tremendous amount of good in raising the academic performance of their students and, creating a more disciplined environment. They are the fashion now when it comes to giving. Hedge funds, a lot of corporate America loves to give to charter schools. But what they forget is that Catholic education is built on the premise that you develop the human being to his or her fullest potential as to make them a recipient of the word of revelation. So in effect, we do everything charter schools do and much more. So we, in effect, should very much be on the minds of many individuals who are really interested in the humanities and developing the human person. We do it far better than anyone else. And what we need to do is make it fashionable once again to give to Catholic schools in philanthropic circles, in corporate circles, in academic circles, because there is a lot of money that wants to come into education. Unfortunately, they don't come to us when they really should be looking at us and what we do. Yeah.
Does anybody telling them?
We've started. I think we've all started in our own ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have boards, because we realize that we can't do it ourselves. And we're looking for people for our boards who have more influence in the world than we do. But there's another fellow, Patrick McCluskey, wrote a book, The Street Stops Here, his story about Harlem, Rice High School in Harlem. He had a very interesting quote. He said, if every Catholic in the United States gave the cost of one Starbucks coffee per week, he said Starbucks cappuccino, we would have $4 billion to funnel into Catholic education. So one morning I woke up and I said, if we had 20,000 people in New York City give us $2.74 a day, we could be able to fund a Catholic school, because that would give us $20 million. We could invest that, and that would be enough to fund Catholic schools. The Red Book says there are 1.4 million Catholics in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
1.4. If you got $100 each from all of them, you could run the whole Catholic school system in the Diocese of Brooklyn. The problem is that there's an article in the tablet this week by James O'Donnell, which talks about only 50,000 people in the diocese are giving.
Right.
So how do we get those that 1.5 on board? I mean, last week in the tablet, they had the quotation from the bishop at the Chrism Mass, And he said, you know, that the church has changed in the last 2 generations and not for the better. And he talked about how, I guess in the 1950s and 60s, about 60% of people went to Mass. And he says now it's about 15% nationally. And he also, one of the greatest quotes that he said, that every school or church that closes is a failure. And I say that we have failed the children in the Diocese of Brooklyn and their families 43 times in the last 5 years because we've closed 43 schools. What are we going to do to change that? So we have to get that word out. And this is one of the ways we're going to get the word out. You know how long I bothered you. I can be a real pest, but God has called me to be a pest. So that's why we're here tonight, and exactly what you just said, to get the word out and to find those people who have the means to give to the children of today. And it's all about children.
One of the things I am intending to talk about next week is the decline of religion, and particularly the decline of active Catholicism in the United States. When I was a little boy long ago, 83% of American Catholics went to Mass every Sunday. Now it's down, it's a bit better than 15, it may be up to 20. And the other religions have done the same problem. They had very, very serious problems of losing their membership. The interesting thing is, if you do a study of the Pew studies, about 93% of Americans believe that there is a personal God, that he knows you and you can know him.
Absolutely.
And that about 88, 87% believe that at the end of this life, you will render an account of what you have done of your life. What's everybody doing?
That's right.
You know,
Right.
It's people reading the statistics.
Right. But may I?
Sure.
Part of the reason why saving our Catholic elementary schools is so important is because the ramifications go even beyond the children we serve. As we mentioned over dinner, recently I was at a conference of superintendents, and one of the superintendents noted that a sociologist had said it takes 3 generations to completely obliterate or forget a religious tradition. By my count, we're in the 2nd generation where a large segment of our church is not active and is beginning to forget what it really means to be a Catholic Christian. Now, they should be worshiping, but they're not. But they still may be apt to put their children in a Catholic school. So it's our last best place to evangelize child and family. And that is why it is a major priority for the church to keep our schools active and alive so we can win both child and parent. Because in many places, children are learning their religion from their grandparents. Now it's time to also have the parents come back into active worship.
That's right. That's right.
Well, while I'm going to talking about the problem, Catholic higher education, which I think has largely been a scandal. There are 225 Catholic colleges and universities in this country, and according to the Cardinal Newman study, about 32 or 33 of them actually are vibrant Catholic schools. And then there's a number of others that are kind of wishy-washy. Some are totally away from the Catholic Church. I received a letter in the mail from a graduate of Notre Dame. A long, thoughtful letter, a woman who had graduated there about 10 years ago. And I was thinking Notre Dame is doing pretty good. That's not what she had to say. And this is tragic, because there are very fine teachers at Notre Dame.
But Notre Dame has given us a great deal of hope. They just came out with a study and a report, and they are asking the whole church to work together to double the percentage of Latino children in Catholic schools. Right now, we only have 3% of the Latino children in Catholic schools. They want to double that from 3% to 6% in the next 10 years, going from 290,000 to 1 million. This is as we become a more Latino church, and if we're only educating 3% of the children, we're in trouble. So I think Notre Dame did this report and came out with some very fine suggestions. So, I mean, there are positive, even in, as you say, there are problems, but even in the problems, there are very positive signs. And I think Notre Dame did a very positive sign with that report.
Well, I just received this letter from an 8-page letter from a recent Notre Dame, and I wasn't even thinking in those terms, but she was very, very disappointed. And of course, I constantly letters or words from people disappointed by schools like Boston College, very disappointed. And yet I know priests and laymen who teach at the Boston College who are outstanding.
Yeah.
Brother's point about the Hispanics and the Latino population raises the last major factor in my mind why Catholic elementary schools are absolutely crucial. Because if we go back in history, we created our parochial schools in a time when Catholics were told, you don't belong in the public school system. The know-nothings, just take your children and go somewhere else. And we created our schools to make sure our children could have a future. There's a whole new wave of immigrants who are Catholic, who because of financial constraints and so many other issues are not able to come into our schools. We need to find a way to serve them as our forebears served us. And that is where we will fulfill the gospel mission, and also we'll create a new generation of leaders for the church. Because many of us are products of Catholic schools, and we're in leadership.
All three of us.
And exactly. So those who come after us, if they're going to take this mantle of leadership, would have to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, now our audience, not only our studio audience, but our huge television audience, not only in the United States, but overseas and in Latin America, hear what it is being said. This is a very, very important part of life. When we were speaking about the beginning of Catholic schools, initially they were Catholic public schools because the regular public schools were Protestant schools.
Right.
In the city of New York, the members of the school board were ministers of the churches, ex officio. And then we had independent Catholic public schools supported. And in order, because of anti-Catholicism, they secularized the whole situation. Probably not anti-Protestant. Now, if you went to Canada or to England, a number of other countries, the public schools teach the Catholic faith. Not very well, so we're probably better off by doing it ourselves. But, you know, from Jersey City, what you pay for, you get. And that's a Jersey City. You been to Jersey City, brother?
Yes, I have.
That's good.
Can I just, when you're talking about Boston College, they did something wonderful. Boston College actually adopted a Catholic elementary school, St. Columkill, outside of Boston, and they put resources in, teacher training and money and resources into that. And at those mornings when I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning worried about school finances and everything, I say, wouldn't it be wonderful if our Catholic colleges went out of their way to adopt Catholic elementary schools? Because you and I know the endowments of the Catholic colleges, they could do that. I met with our provincial and I said to him, I bet our LaSallian universities, Manhattan College and LaSalle University in Philadelphia, could probably take over our school and make it into a laboratory school and do something wonderful like that. So I was very proud when I saw what the Boston College does, and I since we're on TV, might as well challenge all the Catholic colleges to do something like that.
There is a sign of hope, though, when it comes to the high schools.
Yes.
I was recently at a meeting a week and a half ago, and we had one of our Catholic high schools in the diocese and 8 grammar schools sitting around the table discussing ways that they could strengthen each other. And the high school is opening its doors, resources, teachers, programs, to be able to put into the grammar schools, so that in a sense they create a community of education, which is exactly what Preserving the Vision is talking about. New partnerships. Because united, we're stronger. So that's the hope.
right.
On any level, we need to bring people together to do this.
What's a fascinating fact is that there are many families that are not well off at all. They're struggling with their income, and they send their kids to Catholic school.
It's a value.
And they make the sacrifice.
Yes, they do.
And a number of places I know where they get a 50%, the parish gets together and they can't do it all, but how many minority children get to Catholic school now? And their parents want them to get a good education, not only Catholic families, but Protestant families.
Sure.
They want their kids to go to Catholic school.
In our diocese, we have Alive in Hope, we have the Bishop Scholarship Fund, and we have the Angel Program. And as I meet with our parents, it breaks my heart sometimes that we have to charge tuition because these people are, as you say, heroic. They're sacrificing much. But the Bishop Scholarship Fund, based on finances, will pay up to 75% of the tuition. The Angel Program, and anybody who wants to be an angel can get in touch with us. The people volunteer to pay $1,500 towards tuition. And then we have the Alive in Hope Foundation and Futures in Education.
Last year there was $11.5 million worth of scholarship money given out to our elementary school students for the generosity of the people.
I should have to just put in a little point here, one of my favorite subjects. I always like to talk about purgatory. I'm from Jersey City, and we always thought about purgatory. And if you want to cut down on purgatory, this is a way to do it.
Amen.
Amen.
We're going to be back in a minute. I need questions, observations, arguments, whatever, from our television audience and then our local audience. So call in. Don't be just lazy. Work. Well, our first caller this evening was right on the minute when we started, and called right in, and that's Teresa. Teresa, where are you from, and what are you going to tell us?
Hi, Father Groeschel. My name is, I'm from Connecticut. I have a question for both the bishop and the brother and yourself. I also benefited from Catholic school in the 60s and 70s. I have family members and friends who send their children to do more homeschooling and don't send their children to Catholic elementary schools because the Catholic education today is not the same kind of Catholic education that we ourselves got. And I'm wondering if that has led to the decline in enrollment. And I can give you an example if you want.
Well, Teresa, you really opened one of the questions here. And I would say that what control does one have over a local school? What I do think, from Jersey City again, if they're not doing what they're supposed to doing, make noise. Don't say nothing. And also warn them that if this is not a real Catholic school, hit them in the pocket. Here where they'll jump if you put them in the pocket. And also, though, if the Catholic school is not quite up to what you would like it to be, you can augment it, you can add to it by using religious studies at home. And I'm certainly not opposed to people doing homeschooling. What minute, Bishop?
But I think also, if a Catholic school is going to thrive for the long term, it has to be quintessentially Catholic. Its identity has to be clear.
That's right.
And that everything we've been doing in our diocese, at the heart of it all is Catholic identity. And every school is required to assess itself on an annual basis. And if they're independent schools like the academies, the pastors have to certify to the bishop that they are, to their satisfaction, can witness and testify to the fact that the school is Catholic in its doctrine, in its discipline, in the morals, in its lifestyle, in its sacramental celebrations, pastoral service. It's key because we're not running private schools. They're to be Catholic schools. So to the extent that there are some who go to Catholic schools and don't find them Catholic, then those schools need to be reformed because they're part of the problem. They're not part of the solution.
Yeah, I agree with the bishop. In our school, we start every day with grades 1 through 8 in the gym for morning prayer. We have school mass once a month, and the children go to mass by grade every Friday. We're blessed. We have Father Bob Sadlak, who's a friend of yours, in our school right now, and he's absolutely wonderful. And you know, we also have confession for the children, and we have religion lesson every day, and our whole atmosphere is Catholic.
Has to be.
Our Superior General, Brother Alvaro, just sent us a letter, and there was a line in it that has really been with me. He said, "The needs of the young, the growth of the church, and the advancement of God's kingdom are our essential objectives." And when I read that, I said, well, that's right. The needs of the young, growth of the church, and the advancement of God's kingdom. That's what Catholic education is about. And I think that's what our school is about. And I think hopefully it's what every Catholic school is about.
There is a penalty, in a sense, if I could use that word. If our schools are not, if we cannot attest that they are truly Catholic, that if they've lost their Catholic identity, we are committed to close them. It's as simple as that. If a school in June, if a pastor cannot say this is ultimately and truly and sincerely a Catholic school, it would not reopen in September. That is how much we are committed to make sure our schools remain Catholic.
It's something that is very worthwhile mentioning. From the 70s and 80s to today, there is a whole sea change in Catholic thought and Catholic culture. Things were at an all-time low in the 80s, and it was an atrocious time. And I think history, when it looks back at it, will see a time of very weak Catholic identity in the 80s. But I think all of this, and amazingly, miraculously, part of this comes from very young people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The people that are demanding for authentic Catholicism are older teenagers and young adults.
Young adults.
People into their early 30s.
That's right.
That's an amazing fact. We've got a call from Bob. Bob, where are you calling from and what going to tell us?
Well, I'm from Mississippi, Father, and I'd like to comment on the Catholic education. You never seem to bring up the Lincoln Diocese in Nebraska, Bishop Bruskowitz. He is very strict, very conservative. They have nuns, orders of nuns in habits who teach the schools. The priests, and there are 2 in each parish and sometimes 3, they teach religious classes. And the cost is minimal, $20 a week. And to me, if other dioceses would be more strict with their rules, like Bishop Bruskowitz says, every Mass must be said exactly the same way every day. You can't mess around with it. And when you teach religion, you will teach it his way. And he is very, very conservative. And I appreciate your taking this call because you have a wonderful program. But I think if the Catholic Church would go back to its old ways of when I was an altar boy, I wanted to be a priest. The girls in school wanted to be nuns.
Well,
Most of them didn't.
We're not trying to go back, Bob. We're trying to go ahead. I know what you're saying, and I am a very good friend of Bishop Bruskowitz, and you may know already that I have many priest friends in the Lincoln Diocese who were seminarians here in this very seminary where we're broadcasting from. It's a very, very fine diocese, and Bishop Bruskowitz, a very good friend of mine, and the different orders of sisters, one of which was founded in that diocese. So, Sisters of Christ the King. But it's a great example, and it's a vibrant diocese. I wouldn't use the word conservative. I would say authentic and really vibrant in itself. You know, liberal and conservative are political meanings, and they're very confused. Conservative means literally the defense of the present. Well, most of the conservatives I know think the president stinks. And then liberal means respect for the other guy's point of view. And that isn't particularly popular either in the liberal movement. Those are funny words. Bishop or brother, what do you got to say?
I think Bob's really talking about, as you say, authentic witness. I think back to my days when I was in grammar school, St. Simon and Jude. I had the Dominican sisters. I can say to you very clearly, I'm standing here as a bishop and a priest in part because of the witness those wonderful women gave in the classroom. Because they taught, but they also helped form me. Education and formation, two aspects of one reality that we as Catholics in our education are supposed to do. And I think witness has to be, as you say, authentic. It can't be compromised. It's not to be unclear. You know when it's authentic. You know the real deal when you see it. And I think to a certain extent, it's a challenge we all have to live up to.
We all lost a great deal when we lost the communities of teaching sisters. Huge communities that are all disappeared. But I should point out to you, if on this camera, here are some young ladies, very fine young ladies, who are either sisters, or these young ladies are postulants in our community. And isn't it wonderful to see?
Isn't it wonderful?
Pride. Good to see you, sisters.
But when you say we've lost, that doesn't mean that we can't challenge the young people of today to become the religious of today and to meet those needs. You know, I think the needs of Catholic education is greater than ever before. And so we have to say to our young people, the people in their 20s and 30s, have you ever thought about, just aside, because I think that, you know, we keep talking about sisters, and I think the brothers in the church have been great examples of good Catholic men in the church, and we need more of that. But I think the other day at Mass, we prayed for vocations to the priesthood, to the sisters, and to the diaconate. And I was sitting in the first row, and I said out loud, I said, please, don't forget brothers, don't forget brothers. And everybody in the church said, oh, yeah. Because, you know, when we're talking about that, we need young men and young women to step up to the plate and to take the role of that we, the witnesses.
To come forward in leadership.
There's a particular kind of brother that I want to mention. Teaching brothers, that's what we all thought of when we thought of brothers. But in religious orders, there are also what we call lay brothers.
That's right.
And these are the brothers who do the manual work or handle the door or do the sacristy. And in the Capuchins, often the most popular person in the whole Capuchin parish will be one of the brothers.
That's right.
And and they had a remarkable gift. And we, in our new community, we have our lay brothers, and we're very, very, very happy with our lay brothers. And in our community, the brothers can be superiors.
Thank God.
It's something new. We've got a call from Joy. Joy, where are you from and what you're telling us?
Hi, Father. I'm from Queens, New York, South Ozone Park, Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church. And my question was partially answered by Bishop Caggiano about the children who are in public school, the Catholic children in public school. What are we doing to reach out to them and get them educated in the Catholic religion?
An excellent question. Catholic education, in its broadest definition, are the children in our care in Catholic schools and the children who go to public school who are also under our care in the programs of faith formation. And preserving the vision for our diocese is meant to address the needs of all our children. There are 33,000 children in elementary schools, Catholic elementary schools. There are 130,000 potential children to be enrolled in programs of faith formation. And they deserve a quality, authentic, Catholic formation as our children in our elementary schools as well. We've begun work in that, but part of the difficulty is we're undergoing strategic planning. We're going to be doing some parish reconfiguration, And one of the things we're going to look for is to make sure every parish has the resources necessary to have a vibrant faith formation program. Those children are as much in the heart of the church as the children who are in our Catholic schools as well.
It's amazing in a religious community how many young members of the community did not go to religious school. They went to public school.
Absolutely, absolutely. And over 50% of the children who are coming into Catholic high schools did not go to Catholic elementary schools.
It's amazing.
So let me bring it from another perspective. In 1884, the bishops met in Baltimore, and the bishops in Baltimore set it their goal to have every Catholic child in a Catholic school. Now that's my goal. I tell everybody in East Elmhurst, I want every Catholic child in a Catholic school. If we increase the number of students in our schools, then we can lower the tuition. And if we can get enough people to be benefactors, I want that man's name. I've been asking him for that man's name, and he won't give it to me. Okay? Okay. But, you know, could we set as a goal again to have every Catholic child in Catholic school and then say, what are we going to do? We talked before about how there are 1.5 million Catholics in Brooklyn Diocese, but only 50,000 are giving. Well, what can we do to get that other 1-point-something million to give? And I think that's the real question. I sometimes say, have we said, oh, we're going to become smaller to get stronger? I want to say, let's get bigger to become stronger. And my whole thing is, I want to go back to 1884 to say, I want the bishops to come out and say, let's put every Catholic child in a Catholic school.
Which I don't disagree at all. I think part of the growth that can occur in this moment of great challenge for the church is it breaks the complacency people live under.
Amen.
We have taken too much for granted. And people my age, perhaps older, perhaps a bit younger, we're the beneficiaries of so much. And like much of what we do, you have it and you leave it aside, you take it for granted. I think we need to break that complacency. And perhaps this whole period that we're going through is going to allow people to wake up and remember what's most important. And at the heart of it all is the Lord Jesus.
That's right.
Without him, we have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We were at a meeting together, and when he was talking, and I send him letters, and he always says by the third page he starts laughing. But he said something that I think needs to be heard. He said that we've had a paradigm shift. For so long, people came to the church. He said people no longer come to the church. We have to get out. Go to them. And I don't think we're doing enough of that. I think that we're still focused on those who come to church rather than getting out to the street. I say I have a ministry to Dunkin' Donuts. Every Saturday morning I go to Dunkin' Donuts and have my cup of coffee and wait for everybody in the neighborhood to come by and talk to them. And I think that's what we have to do.
I did do it, but you're getting my talk ready for next week.
If you want, I'll come back.
We have a call now from Father John, and I don't know which Father John this is. But Father John, where are you from, and what are you going to tell us?
Good evening, Father Benedict. It's Father John O'Hara from St. Teresa's in Staten Island, and I'm fascinated with this wonderful conversation. I'm a pastor of a large parish with a school. Our staff is very committed to doing what we can for Catholic education, but there's something that you said, Bishop, that I'd like to pursue just for a moment. In the case of the charter school, which is being funded by that very generous individual, you mentioned that the parents enter into a covenant relationship with the school to be formed in the faith and to worship and to practice the faith and all of that. My question is, has any thought been given to spreading that concept to other parish schools, in so much as, in many cases, there's a disconnect from the parents, from the parish, the parents who don't bring their kids to Mass, and we work really hard at doing that, but I found that a concept attractive, and I wonder if you could address that or if there are ways that we could do that on the local level.
Well, this school is only in its first year, and the response that we have received from the parents is very heartwarming. Many of these parents who were themselves away from the faith have now become active members of St. Barbara's Parish. So it works. The point is, we tried it and it works. So, Father John, to your point, I think what we need to do is now challenge the other schools to do the same thing, to see themselves as not just providing formation to a single child, but to begin to see themselves giving formation to an entire family. And it's got to be a give and take. So I think in different communities, it will be created in different ways. But I think at the heart of all strategic planning, of all outreach, of all catechetical formation with parents, they have to realize that they are the prime formators of their children. And I'm hoping that in our diocese, we will have many more schools, perhaps St. Gabriel's will be one, where we'll be able to say, let's look at ourselves as a covenant. And let's look at ourselves as providing service to an entire family, not just a particular child. Yes. I think it has tremendous promise to re-evangelize my generation, which is kind of lost. We can win them back.
That's right.
I thank Father John O'Hara calling in. I taught him in the seminary too.
Did you?
Yeah, I've been teaching here a long time. Yeah. And,
that's why he supports Catholic schools.
And Father O'Hara and I come from Jersey City, believe it or not. He's a priest of New York. Now, here's an important thought. We have to really face the whole challenge of reviving Catholic culture. It has been down in many different ways. Religious life, in the priesthood, Catholic education,
church attendance,
church attendance, people getting married,
literature.
All sorts of people don't get married now.
Right.
And we need to resurrect, and this is a great challenge for the church at this point. It depends, as you make it, the next generation with Catholicism will be a vibrant but very small minority, as it is in France. Or very devout Catholics in France, apostolic, everything, but they're 10%. Or
it's the Holy Remnant, in a sense.
The Holy Remnant.
And you rebuild.
Yes.
You can rebuild.
Well, let's be nice if we could not be the remnant. We have a closing. Thank you both. I appreciate it very much. I'm sure our audience does too. Oh Lord, we ask you to bless us all our friends who have watched, Catholics and non-Catholics. And we ask each and every family and each and every person to be blessed. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. As always, I have my little collection out tonight. Mother Angelica needs us to be your support. And this program and an innumerable excellent programs on EWTN. Just imagine the amount of religious education given not only in the United States, but overseas by Catholic education, by EWTN, by that little nun who's gotten to be kind of old. But please support EWTN.